So good afternoon everyone. So we are the group 4 and here is the members of the group 4. So we are assigned to present about the education and the rise of the Ilustrados. In this presentation, we will know more about the Philippines in the 19th century. We will know more about the education during this period. We will know more about the Ilustrados. What is Ilustrados? What are those Ilustrados and their contribution to the Philippine nationalism? And lastly is the propaganda movement in the 19th century. But before anything else, let's deal first about the Philippines during 19th century. By the way, my name is Divine Pibrianes, the first one who will discuss about this topic. So Philippines in the 19th century. During this period, it was a dynamic and creative age, especially in the Europe and the United States. So when we hear the word dynamic, guys, this means that there were a lot of ideas during this period, and because of there were a lot of ideas, that means a change was evident. Everything's constantly changing during that period. And when we say creative, guys, it means that the people during this period have their own imagination. They have their own bright ideas. So during this period, such concepts as industrialism, democracy, and nationalism triggered revolutionary changes in science, technology, economics, and politics. This change enabled man to achieve the heights of prosperity and dignity. So although the 19th century class in the Philippines was largely medieval, signs of progress or change were noted in certain sectors because it's already dynamic and creative, like what I've said earlier. So its social and economic structure was based on the old feudalistic patterns of abuse and exploitation of the Indians. So in this before, guys, were the Filipinos during that time. So let's go now to the social structure and the Philippines during 19th century. So the Philippines in the 19th century, guys, had suffered from feudalistic and master-slave relationship by the Spaniards. So their social structure is ranked into 3 groups. So we can see here, the first one is the highest class, middle class, and then the lowest class. So let's discuss first about the highest class. So in the highest class, these are the people who have the power and authority to rule over the Filipinos. They enjoyed their positions and do what they want. So for example of that, guys, is the Spanish officials. Another example is the Peninsulares. So the Peninsulares, they are those Spaniards who were born in Spain. They held the most important government jobs and made up the smallest number of the population. We also have here the friars. So they are the members of religious orders of man. So one of their duty is to educate the people and treat the sick. So there's a lot of members that is belong in this class actually, guys, and I know you guys already have an idea. So let's move now to the next class, which is the middle class. So the people that belong into this class includes the natives or the pure Filipinos and the mestizos of the the Filipino of mixed indigenous Filipinos or European or Chinese ancestry. So there were 3 types of mestizos, guys, and let me tell you what are those. So the first one is the mestizos de sangre. So this person are mixed Chinese and Filipino. The second one is the mestizos de Española. These are those people that is mixed Spanish and Filipino. And the lastly is the Ternatras. These are those people that is mixed Spanish, Filipino, and Chinese ancestry. So the last rank, guys, of the social structure is the lowest class. So the lowest class, this class includes the Filipinos only. So they are the native or pure Filipinos. For example of that is the Indios. So Indios are the poor people having pure blood Filipino, which ruled by the Spaniards. So now let's move to the next discussion, which will be discussed by Ms. Alboro and Mr. Santiago.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jillian T. Alboro, the next reporter. Education in the 19th century. Spanish colonizers brought formal education in the Philippines. Before the Spanish colonization in our country, the education that time was not formal. In the Spanish period, the educational system started to change. Education was religion-centered. The first teacher in this era was friars, and the education was mainly religion-based, controlled by the Roman Catholic Church. Their aim was to convert the native Filipinos into Christians. The only responsibilities of Spaniard friars, aside from teaching Christianity, they want to maintain the rules and regulations that they impose to students. In addition, teaching and controlling them was also in their hands. Separate schools for boys and girls. The schools for boys and girls were separated, and there are two types of schools for the female, the kolehiyo and beteryo. Kolehiyo, regular school for girls, and beteryo, a combined school and nunnery. In boys, they can choose a course, medicine, lawyer, or whatever they want. Unlike for girls, they only taught catechism, embroidery, arranging flowers, household making. Most women denied their rights to education due to patriarchal belief that women should stay at home. Education was privileged to wealthy people. The Ilustrados were the only people completed their education, and their parents sent their children to school to take professional courses not only in the Philippines, but also in Europe. With their education and exposure outside the country, this individual called Ilustrados, they form a new emerging movement called propaganda movement.
So hi, I'm Yuri P. Santiago. So let me discuss about this education in the 19th century. So during most of the 19th century, the primary education was provided mainly by the church and mainly for the children of poor parishioners. It was not earlier than in the 1860s that the government started to participate in the development of the education sphere. Schools were expected not only to promote literacy, mentally discipline, and good moral character, but also to help prepare children for citizenship, for jobs, and for individual development and success. So about this, so let me explain widely about this. So we know at that time a lot of poor people or children struggling with difficulty, not like now, right now. A lot of people or relatives support us or the government, and the sphere of education includes four significant spheres. So first, health; second, social; and third, economic and religious education. So it aids students in developing positive relationships and being respectful of everyone. It also aims to develop the students' confidence and promote a healthy and safe lifestyle.
Ilustrados, term for Filipinos elites, Chinese mestizo elites who went to study professional courses abroad in Europe, aside from their families, are capable to spend for their children's education. They were able to study abroad because of the opening Suez Canal made it easier for ships to get across to Europe from Asia. By their exposure from having education from abroad and its surrounding, when they came back from their school, these individuals have called for change or reforms of our educational system here in our country.
My name is Regina Jane J. Barriquet. So, akong nasabtan sa Ilustrados, about Ilustrados kanang Basically speaking kana mga Ilustrados gani mauna ang mga Pinoy rich kids na nakahuman og eskwela sa abroad. So niadto sila sa eskwela sa abroad kay ang mga naa dito mga high quality institute or eskwelahan na located, while sa ato I think wala pa na abot or nahimo na nindot og quality education institute pa. So since naamay sila exposure sa gawas, pagbalik nila na compare nila na layo ra kaayo atong quality of education gi-offer sa ato country, mao na ilagi reform or change ang mga kulangan or dili maayo na part sa education sa una.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Althea Otadoy Bourbon, and I am here to talk to you about the Ilustrados and their contribution to Philippine history. So, in the 19th century, the Spaniards had dominated, moreover controlled Filipino people. The Filipinos turned out to be a servant or a mercenary to the Spaniard. They took their taxes and they were working in accordance with their command. Those Spanish authorities and officials transferred to different locations so the necessity for the rule could be fulfilled. So just like in the movies, when there is a villain, there was a hero. So it was there that the rise of Ilustrados began. So what are the Ilustrados? Who are the Ilustrados? So my partner Fritzy Sasidon will explain more about the Ilustrados.
So, hi everyone, I'm Fritzy Sasidon. So, I'll be discussing Ilustrados and their contribution to the Philippine nationalism. Ilustrados formed the Filipino well-educated class. As we all know, Ilustrados people are Filipino well-educated class sa panahon sa Spanish colonization. Nabilong ni sila sa middle class nga gikuan sa Spain, kay ang mga Ilustrados nga tao kay mga genius daghan bawaan na about liberalism as well as known nationalism. They are the people who have courage to speak up for the Filipinos' interests and want more human approach to the Philippine politics and economics. Maong gitawag na sila Ilustrados kay they are the leader of the propaganda movement whose writing helped inspire the Philippine Revolution in the late 19th century. Manila's middle sector and elites based in municipalities actively participated in the Philippine Revolution.
Due to their valiant deeds, these Filipino elites, Marcelo H. del Pilar, Graciano Lopez Haina, and Jose Rizal, played a significant role in the history of our beloved Philippines. Those Ilustrados were founders in the propaganda movement. Their works inspired and sparked Philippine Revolution among the Filipinos. They mainly address the concept of unity and personal identification. The growth of Filipino nationalism will be addressed in this article using the ideas and conceptions of three eminent Ilustrados. So, story time on how La Liga Filipina and La Solidaridad are being established. Other presenters already talked about the abusive act of the Spaniards. So now I will be telling you about how the propaganda movement is being established. You already know that friars has the authority in administration of colony. It's because of their spiritual function. The people believe and fear them. They are also influential because of their knowledge of language. In 1875, a royal decree established a faculty of medicine in Santo Tomas for Filipinos. This prompted the rise of Ilustrados. Jose Rizal, one of the students there, aimed for the equality for his countrymen. He wanted to learn about Spain's governance to help his country, the Philippines. So he went to Spain. When Jose Rizal arrived in Spain, he met with a Spanish teacher who taught the Masonry movement, and the Spanish teacher introduced Graciano Lopez Haina to Jose Rizal. Graciano Lopez Haina introduced to Jose Rizal the Freemasonry movement. So what is Freemasonry movement? It is inspired by French philosopher and revolutionist John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau said that the government shall act for the betterment of the citizen, and the citizen has more power than the government. Graciano Lopez Haina introduced Marcelo H. del Pilar, who founded another Masonic lodge called La Solidaridad. Jose Rizal joined the movement of Marcelo H. del Pilar, and they studied together and organized the La Solidaridad, and after years, they come back to the Philippines to spread the propaganda movement to make the Filipinos aware of these reforms. With the help of Pedro Serrano Lactao, who made the preparation and who made the newspaper called La Solidaridad. Their goal is Filipinos can know what they can do for the Philippines. With the idea of expanding the Masonry and providing a unified force for the Filipino society, Marcelo del Pilar, with the consent of the worshipful Master Saint Lactao, to establish Filipino lodges to the Philippines. Sir Rizal also established his own Masonic lodge called La Liga Filipina. He wanted to bring back the native history and separate the church and the government, and it's time for the Filipinos to be more nationalistic. Afraid kept anxious and the keep Jose Rizal. The revolution is not yet over. There are more heroes who fight for our freedom. Andres Bonifacio, one of the most notable revolutionaries after Rizal, was a member of the Freemasonry movement, which the Katimpunan or KKK was derived from.
Trivia for today. The first issue of the La Solidaridad was published on February 15, 1889, and its last publication was on November 15, 1895. In total, the Freemasons were able to publish 7 volumes and 160 issues of the Solidaridad. So that's all for today. I am Rafael Otadoy Barbon, your presenter.
Now we tackle about the propaganda movement. So the propaganda movement is a peaceful crusade or campaign for reforms. So it was organized and participated by the Ilustrados. Dr. Jose Rizal, Marcelo H. del Pilar, and Graciano Lopez Haina are the leaders of the said movement. The rise of the propaganda movement, it began in 1872 when Fathers Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora were executed at De Luneta. The Filipino exiles of 1872 and many patriotic students abroad meet in Hong Kong, Singapore, Barcelona, Madrid, Paris, London, and other foreign cities. Work of promoting the welfare and happiness of the fatherland. They aggressively but peacefully, by means of writing and speeches, they crusaded for reforms to rectify the evils of the Spanish colonial system. So, the reforms desired by the propaganda movement. So, first, the equality of the Filipinos and Spaniards before the laws. Second, assimilation of the Philippines as a regular province of Spain. Third, restoration of the Philippine representation in the Spanish Cortes. Fourth, the Philippinization of the Philippine parishes and the expulsion of friars. The fifth is human rights for Filipinos, such as freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom to meet and petition for redress and grievance. So we go on to the propagandists. So we're patriotics who wage their movement by means of pen and tongue to expose the defect of Spanish rule in the Philippines and the urgency of reforms to remedy them. So they were signs of good families, highly intelligent, they are educated, they are patriotic and courageous, who symbolize the flower of Filipino manhood. So the first is Marcelo H. Del Pilar. So he is a lawyer and a journalist. He is also beloved by masses for his eloquent Tagalog and fearless defense of the poor against friars' abuses. So, Jose Rizal. So we all know Jose Rizal is a physician. He is a novelist and many splendored genius. So he also wrote a No Limitang Here and El Filibusterismo, right? Then Graciano Lopez Haina. He is the greatest orator of the propaganda movement. In the last is Mariano Punce. So he is a medical student and a biographical writer. So that's all for today, and thank you.
I'm Elpidio Bayeta Jr. Well, the forefront of Ilustrados, or known as the propaganda movement, are Jose Rizal, Marcelo Del Pilar, and Graciano Lopez Haina. They are the one who organized the propaganda movement. These patriots were called propagandists because they waged their movement by means of pen and tongue to expose the defects of Spanish rule in the Philippines and the urgency of reforms to remedy them. Well, during the 19th century, education was not afforded to all Filipinos, but as long as dato ka or you are in a wealthy family like a middle class Filipino or a wealthy Filipino, same as Jose Rizal before, kay nadyo'y opportunity nga dako, like before is ang education is para lang sa mga adunahan. And when the Ilustrados came to Spain, they realized na dagan kayog mga privileges na wala sa ato nga mga Filipino, like sa education, sa rights, especially sa equality and freedom nga ana sila nga wala ta. So nakakuan sila nga kung kining mga Pinoy nga naa diri sa Spain, which is mga Ilustrados who are in a wealthy family nga naay freedom, equality and rights, why not i-apply ka ni sa Pilipinas? And these propagandist writings kay ila ginapakita sa mga Spaniards or sa Spanish government kung unsa ka grabe ang injustice during that time. For example, sa katong tulo ka pari which is known as Gumburza, who were executed for fighting the issues of secularization in the Philippines that lead to the conflict of religious and church seculars. And then one of the breakthrough sa kining propaganda movement kay ang La Solidaridad. The aims of propaganda movement are equality of Filipinos and the Spaniards before the law, assimilation of the Philippines as a regular province of Spain. Well, actually, about aning assimilation of the Philippines as a regular province of Spain, they want the Philippines to be a province of Spain because when Rizal and those Ilustrados, when they arrive in Philippines, kay ganahan sila nga ang atong country kay ang Philippines kay province of Spain kay way man nganong kailangan pa man nila ikuan, since they are fighting and wanting this one kay, for example, if you are a province of Philippines kay makakuha ta og equal privileges and equal rights, which is wala na to before. Mong these Ilustrados kay ganahan jud sila for the sake of rights, privileges and equality. Restoration of Philippine representation in the Cortes, the lawmaking body of Spain. Kay before, we have representation or tawo nga maoy mo voice out or ma-share kung unsay kinahanglan nato mga Filipino as a nation. That's why ganahan sila nga ma-restore because they want someone to share or voice out kung unsa kapait ang gidanas sa mga Pinoy sa Spaniards. So the Spaniards would hear the cry of Filipino in Congress. Was no equal protection in laws, equal justice, and some other injustices that committed by Spaniards, just like panggagahasa or paglugos sa mga babae before. Philippinization of Philippine parishes. Ang aim ani is to give equality to those Filipino priests which is gisulong or pinaglaban ni na Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora, which is known as Gomburza. Individual liberties for the Filipino. This is about the independence, freedom, equality that Filipino really deserve during the 19th century. The failure of the propaganda movement or La Solidaridad kay tungod sa layunin ni Marcelo del Pilar and some Ilustrados kay nausab, which is wala nagustuhan ni Rizal mo tong nagkawatak-watak. But despite of failure, the ideas of freedom and justice which it sowed paved the ground for the Philippine Revolution that the Katipunan and Andres Bonifacio began in the hills of Balintawak in August 1896. Through this, it opened their eyes kung unsay karapat dapat nato mga Filipino. So, dapat thankful jud ta kay grabe kay ang pag-antos sa una. So while Jose Rizal living in Hong Kong, he conceived the idea of establishing a civic association composed of Filipinos. He found ways or came up with another way, which is focusing the several aspects of Filipinos, which is he called it the La Liga Filipina. And with the help of Jose Maria Basa, after finishing the constitution kay nibalik dayon siya sa Manila. The aim of the La Liga Filipina are union of the Philippine archipelago into a compact string and homogeneous body, mutual protection of the members, defense against all violence and injustice, encouragement of education, agriculture, and commerce, study and application of reforms. This constitution or this La Liga Filipina kay dili sila ganahan og violent revolution. They want a peaceful one through different activities in this constitution. This constitution doesn't into theories already or writing. They wanted to take part through the changes that should be done in the Philippines. The end of the propaganda movement or the end of La Liga Filipina when Rizal was exiled to the Dapitan, katong gidakop siya, which is gibuhatan siya kaso kunuhay sa mga friars. Then that's the moment the La Liga Filipina collapsed. After the collapse of this constitution, the members were splitted by two, which are Compromisarios and the KKK, who was built by Andres Bonifacio after the collapse of La Liga Filipina. The Compromisarios are those people who wanted a peaceful revolution, and the KKK who believes and want a violent revolution. While Jose Rizal wanted a peaceful revolution, he is also a man of his word. Kay Jose Rizal really believed that the revolution could be achieved in a peaceful way. Kay there are moment nga si Andres Bonifacio kay na siya gisugo, which is si Dr. Pio Valenzuela, na bisitahon si Jose Rizal dito sa Dapitan during Jose Rizal was exiled. And gikuha ni Dr. Pio Valenzuela na ang iyang giadto kay dili pang medical kundi sa upcoming na revolution, a violent revolution that Andres wanted. But Jose Rizal denied that request kay ni tuod jud siya na it could be achieved in a better and peaceful way. But despite that denial, kay Andres Bonifacio firmly believed that the happiness and welfare of the Filipino people could not be achieved by peaceful requests for reforms but by violent revolution. That's why we achieved the independence, but afterwards we were colonized by the American.
And that's the end of our presentation, guys. I hope you've learned something, guys. Thank you for listening. Bye!